All right, want to welcome everybody to the Recharter discussion tonight for this year. And with us tonight is Gary Ely. He's our council commissioner. And Justin Feld, our council registrar, is also with us. And myself, Pat Dannenberg, the director of field service. We're all here to talk about Recharter for 2023 and how we can help you guys out as units and have a smoother Recharter season. So Gary, talk to us a little bit about some of the highlights that we have for Recharter this year.
Thanks, Pat. Something to keep in mind on this as we go through this is your commissioner service team is here to assist in any way possible with the Recharter process. It is a commissioner responsibility to ensure units have what they need and can get through this. So with that in mind, we wanted to bring up some highlights that might look a little different this year. The first one, as you can see on the screen, is that after August 1st, any adult or youth that registered will show on your Recharter paperwork with a zero balance. This is because the membership is paid in full for 12 months forward from the date of their registration. So if you registered on the 30th of September, on the Recharter roster, there'll be zero, and you will not see a fee associated because it's already been paid, but their name should still be there. Be sure each member on your roster, and this is critical because of the point just made, be sure that every member on your roster has a valid email address in the system. That is for youth, that would be their parents' email address, and for adult volunteers, your own email address, so that when that membership notice comes through, you actually get notification and it doesn't go away into the great ether sphere. What I like to do is I like to have a specific account that I use for just scouting, and then anything that comes in there, that's where I get it from. So I go to Yahoo or Gmail, create an account, which is what that mt.bsacommish@gmail is. That's my Scout account. And I go ahead and use that going forward. It keeps everything nice and separate, and I don't have to worry about whether or not I have an Amazon order coming into that account because I know I don't use it for that. Next point, check your unit's Be a Scout pin for current information and keep it up to date. There's a setup guide that's available. It's not very difficult, but we have opened that up for unit leaders to go ahead and update that information. It's really important that each unit gets that information correct. It certainly helps if you have youth wanting to join through the online process. So please look at that. Make sure your units have that. Make sure that every adult is compliant with the Montana Council YPT standard. Currently, that is an expiration date later than December 31, 2024. So if they take it, and even if you're a council or district member as well, the ability to be compliant from July 1st will carry through all the way to December 31st. So it doesn't matter, you'll be covered, but that expiration date regardless has to be beyond December 31st, 2024. Next slide, Pat, please. Make sure your unit has the minimum correct required positions filled. Chart organization, unit leader, committee chair, 2 members of the committee, and for a PAC, you need all of that plus at least 1 den leader. Your charter will get hung up if you don't have that processed. While the process is pretty simple and shouldn't take a lot of time, be sure you know how to get in and out of the online process, how to save your work, how to print a final copy for your own records in case you get interrupted while working on the charter. The charters should take very little time, especially if you're really experienced. To that end, the system opens up, just like the Supreme Court. It opens up the first Monday of October. So that this year it's October 2nd. And it runs for us through December 31st. But because of the way things are going on with changes to Recharter and changes to a lot of things that National is doing, the council has made the push to have all units done by mid-November at the latest. Trust me when I say you do not want this to carry into the new year, because it will become a quagmire of a mess to try to get through the system. So work with your units. This year, above all else, is the time when you want to get this done sooner than later. And be careful where you pull your unit roster from. The best place, oddly enough, is Internet Advancement. It's not Scout Book. It's not a lot of these things. It's IA, because you can add people to a roster in Scout Book, but they don't show up as being registered. Internet Advancement is critical for that. Next slide, Pat. I think I'm done. Any questions on that briefly? I got one question that says, will this slide deck be sent out? Pat, I think we can do that. Yes.
Yeah, so the points in this slide deck, much of it's already been shared in via email. And so it's us being able to verbally discuss it for tonight. And then this video is being recorded for YouTube. So now
I have a question for you, Gary. Is the new unit coordinator not, or new unit or a new member coordinator not required for Recharter anymore?
Never has been.
They
Yeah.
wouldn't let us submit last year without one.
Interesting. I don't, as long as you have 2 members of committee,
Yeah.
I thought that's all you needed. So that
That's
includes your committee chair. So technically 3 members of committee.
Gary, that's correct on that. And you can also have a couple other positions, and we'll talk about that and show that here in a little bit. So
How do you get into the Internet Advancement if it's not in Scout Book?
so we'll talk about that here in a little bit too. Okay.
Thanks.
All right, guys. So let's just talk a little bit about the process. And I know and realize that some people are new tonight and haven't done Recharter ever before. And if you've never done Recharter, then this can help. So this checklist is a helpful tool. For every Scout unit, we do encourage the Scout unit to find a champion inside your unit to help with Recharter. Now, once that happens and you find that person, do encourage them to watch a video like this. There's a couple other training resources out there too, but this video is pretty helpful for what somebody may need to do to Recharter a unit. And really overall, the first main thing is to go to Internet Advancement and obtain that unit roster that Gary was talking about. And we'll show a little bit about that here in just a few minutes and talk about how to get into the Internet Advancement and so forth. So now, one of the things that we do encourage is also getting a copy of your training report, and you can go to my.scouting, or you can go into Scout Book and get that from either one. Scout Book, you'll just look in, once you're in your troop or pack or unit, you'll be able to look down and find reports and look in the report list for adult training. So one of the things that we really want to encourage is that you pay attention to having 100% of all of your leaders trained. That is absolutely critical for a quality program, which all of our youth really, really deserve. So Gary mentioned also our youth protection training dates have to have, if you're rechartering, those adults rechartering have to have an expiration date after December 31st of 2024. So that YPT date has to be good all the way through the 2024 year. So now, one of the things that we really encourage is once you get a copy of that youth roster and adult roster for your unit, go through, review it, make sure that all of your youth and adults are on there. If you're missing some, then you'll want to make adjustments, but make sure with that roster that you're collecting funds for renewing members, obtain any applications that you need to for any members that aren't showing up on the roster, and then just continue to review that training roster as you go. So you can adjust the roster in online internet recharter and add those adults, add any youth. You can change positions. You can add Scout Life magazine for youth and even adults too, those that want to have it. And there's a few other things that you can pay attention to in there. And once you've gone through and taken care of your roster, you're going to want to submit it. Now, once you've really submitted it, you're going to be looking at having a key 3 member of the unit approve that recharter. And then once you've had that recharter approved, you're also going to be then looking at submitting a payment online or at the Scout office. But one of the things I really recommend, for one, is do not use a credit card to pay for your recharter. That is a big mistake. You can do it, but if you pay for your recharter using a credit card, even a debit card, it's going to charge you for that interest on the credit card. What I do recommend you doing online instead is using a check and doing a digital check and using your checking account number and your routing number and going ahead and using it that way. And then of course you can just hit pay later, and we'll show you that. And with pay later, you would just be able to submit a payment at the Scout office instead. So now what happens after you submitted that payment? Your hands are done, right? And well, there's a couple things that still can happen, and the Montana Council will take that submission and it's going to review it. We're going to double check to make sure all the YPTs are correct. We'll look for any other defective issues that need to be resulted. And if there's no issues, then we'll go ahead and post it. If there's an issue, then what's going to happen is Justin Feld, our recharter champion for the council and our council registrar, he'll notice something, and then he'll reach out to the district executive, and the district executive working with commissioners will reach out to your unit and let you know. But I highly recommend, after a unit has posted on its recharter, somewhere in March, go look at your roster and make sure everybody is there that should be there. And just double check it. Because if you do see something missing and say something didn't post through, then I would really recommend taking the time to just double check and make sure it's all good. All right. So something I really want to bring to everyone's attention is applications. If you have to add somebody, then one is, if you're going to add them and you're going to turn them in as paper application, I recommend you turning them in as soon as you can. And once you turn somebody in, then you have the ability to turn them in by paper or by online. And if you turn them in by paper, you can send them to registrar@montanabsa.org. That way it gets to Justin as fast as possible so that he can then post them. Just know that if you take this application and it's scanned and it's emailed over to Justin, make sure that you have money in your unit account at the Scout office for him to withdraw to pay for those applications. If you don't have any money and you don't know, feel free to call the Great Falls Scout office and ask for money to be deposited into your unit account, and that can work. So something to also note, if you have an out-of-date application, the Scout office cannot accept an out-of-date application. It has to be the current application. So for example, I've put 2 examples of the adult application on the screen here. If your adult application is in the long ways format, the portrait format, then you look at the bottom right corner and it's going to say 2023 on it. And if you see that, then the application is good. It used to be the Scout office would take a lot of applications. We would order them and get them in, and we could then be able to hand them out and everybody could have a paper copy of it. the reality is that National's updating these applications more than once a year now, and we have to use the most current version. And so what you need to make sure you're doing is use the current version. My recommendation to find that current version is to just go to a Google search and type in Boy Scout adult application or Boy Scout Cub Scout, or sorry, Boy Scout adult application or Boy Scout youth application. And in one quick search, it'll pop up with links right away. And so I recommend using those. There'll also be a PDF where you can type it in, or you can just hit print and take it to a meeting and fill it out that way. Now, if you have an application and it comes in and Scout Office gets it and it's missing content, we do have a way to send it back to the person that is missing, having done something, and send it to them digitally so that they can sign it through a digital online digital process to fix it. It's not as easy to do that, but we definitely can do that. And it's easier though than scanning it and sending it back to a person and waiting for them to print it, sign it, fill out whatever it is, and then sending it back. So with the online applications though, if you guys haven't paid attention or done some of the online applications, our council has processed somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 to 400 applications in the last month. And out of all those applications, only 20 of them have been done by paper. So the online application process in the last couple months has just exploded for our council. I really recommend that if you haven't tried using that process, to do it. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to send a digital application here in just a little bit with the demo. Justin, anything else you want to add for this online or paper application process?
No, I don't think so. Just one question that popped up in the chat that I will say kind of publicly here is somebody had asked if the review will be faster than last year. There was some delays last year, apparently. I promise I'm on it, and I will, as soon as I see an error, I will get in touch with you or with your DE. We will be on top of it, and we will let you know if there's any problems as quickly as possible.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. And Justin really was, after Justin got hired last year, our recharter process units were posting as fast as they could, and we were getting them popped out. Prior to Justin, we really didn't have a council registrar for the heart of our recharter season, but we have somebody awesome to help us this year. All right, so without further ado, let's stop sharing this screen and all right, so what I want to share with you guys tonight is internet advancement login and going to the Recharter system. So I know there was a question earlier about how to find internet advancement. And so there's a couple of different ways you can find it. One is in the link in the email that we send out with the link for the video subsequent to this training that we do tonight in discussion. We'll also include the video link and the link to Internet Recharter just to make it a little easier for you. But you can also find that link in Scoutbook. And when you first log into Scoutbook, there's a link on that page. You can also find the link in my.scouting when you're logged in there too. And both of those will push you over to this landing page. And so we'll send it to you a couple of different ways. So I've got my little login right here. I've got my checkbox where I'm not a robot. I'm going to log in. Now, when you first log in, if you've not logged in before, it's going to take you to this wonderful box here. And I'm going to hit acknowledge. All right. Now I can go through this tutorial, but I'm not going to go through it because we're not here for internet advancement. So I'm going to hit skip on that. Okay, so when you first log in, it's going to take you to your organization. Here's your pack roster right here. You can import a file for stuff over here. And that's more in dealing with using other outside programs from something beyond beyond Scoutbook. So like Packmaster and other programs. So okay, so here's what I'm going to do. So here's your pack roster, and you'll see it's got nothing but youth on here. Okay, and I can click over, and I just keep going and so forth. So, but here is also your reports for internet advancement. So I'll just do a quick preview of that. Okay, well, in this demo program, you would click on it, and here's a list of reports that would show, but I think this is designated just for Recharter. So we're going to go ahead. If we look back at our roster too up here, this is talking about pack roster. It does show pending items in here. So this is different, just a ability to say here's stuff that's needing to be purchased. But when looking back at this pack roster, you'll see this is just youth right here, but we're going to click over to our Recharter. All right, we're ready to start the rechartering process, and the new default duration of 12 months will be set. So we're going to hit confirm on this. All right. Now on this page, it tells me a couple of things. Okay. One is up here, here's my unit, and it tells me where it says right here, it's a family. So this is a Cub Scout pack. By saying family, that means it can have both boys and girls in here. It also tells me here's the tenure for how long it's been in existence, and here's the unit expire date. So this unit is set to expire on 12/31/2023. Our goal is to transition that and get them rechartered so that they can then move on. All right, so a few things in this. One is we were talking about get a roster. So that person logs in and comes over, clicks on roster. And this roster now, you would literally go in and you would take and you would hit print. So, and it would normally open, but this is a demo program. So, and so when you have that roster, it's going to show you all of your adults and it's going to show you all of your youth. And you literally print that out. And if I were one of you guys doing Recharter for this year, I'd print it out. I'd log out of this system and I'd go to the Scout meeting with that roster, or I'd go to a committee meeting with that roster and I'd sit down and start talking about who's staying and who's going on the roster. Okay. Now, this process is pretty dang simple. And you'll see over here on the right-hand side of the screen, it says total. I pay attention to this column. And I'm going to click over, and you'll see there's dollar amounts in here. It says 60, and here's a 75. And these dollar amounts are set to old registration dollar amounts from prior years. But I'm going to click over. I'm going to keep clicking in here to see if I have any $0 fees in here for somebody. Because that may exist. It may not. And Gary was talking about this earlier. But a $0 fee, no, we don't have any. But if you were to look over and see that there was a $0 fee on this total column, what that means is that when you get through the recharter process, it's not going to charge you any money for that person. Plus, what it also means is that they most likely registered prior. Now, if somebody registers in the month of October, their registration is going to be good from October to the end of September of next year. If they register in the month of December this year, their registration is going to be good from December to the end of November next year. Okay. Now, that means when you go to get into this recharter process, it's going to show a $0. Let's say you add a person in here and you send them an invite, which we'll show you here in just a little bit. Let's say you add that person. Well, if that person is, you're going to have them showing up as $0 also. And so when I look over here and I hit this under where it says roster over here, it says manage members. This is a little drop down. I'm going to click on that. And it says add new member and invite new member. Okay. So the invite new member, when I click on that, it pops up this little box and it says invite new member. And so member type, so I'm going to be able to select adult or youth. And so I'm just going to select youth. And parents' first name, youth first name, their email address, parents' last name, youth's last name. You fill all this in, right? And then you hit invite. It's going to send an email over to that parent at that email address, and they're going to be able to get that email, and it's going to have a link, and they're going to click on that join button that's in there, and it's going to take them to the online application process. They fill out the online application. It's going to make them pay in that time frame, and they'll submit it. And then as a unit, you get to pay attention to the online application portal and accept the application. Okay. Now, once somebody has gone through and submitted an application online and the unit has approved the application, you have to come back in and hit this refresh roster. If some adult goes through and does their youth protection training, and you see, like, for example, right here, here's an Eileen Berry, and she's an adult and she's a Webelos leader, and right now her YPT is currently expired. You would have to come through and hit this refresh roster. Okay. When you hit that, it'll go through, it'll add people, it'll update their training records, and it'll make any other additions and updates that have occurred in the system since you did this. This online recharter system, once you turn it on, it is a static report. It's not dynamic, and it doesn't continuously update and refresh unless you hit the refresh button. I've seen lots of people say before, well, I turned in the application and it went into the Scout office. Well, isn't it posted? It should be in here. I recommend hitting this refresh roster as often as you can, especially before you hit validate and recharter and pay. So hit refresh roster as often as you can. Okay. So there was another option in here too, where it says add new member. So we're going to come through and hit add new member. And this is a paper application or an existing member. So let's say you have a kid and he's been registered in the Cub Scout pack. And then you're going to turn around and want to register him or her into the troop. You could hit existing member, which then pops up and gives you the name and then the member type. And then let's say on this it's an adult, and we're going to hit the email address, position in the unit, and the member ID. The important part to this is the member ID. That ID is going to let you know who this system in the system it is, and it's going to pull their records with them. Okay. Now we're not going to add, but if I also come back over, you'll see right here where it says mark multiple, unmark as multiple, and remove from recharter. You're going to see those are all not highlighted, but that's because I haven't checked any boxes. So Douglas Mitchell is no longer a Tiger Den leader. His son isn't participating anymore. He's no longer inside Scouts. I'm going to hit manage members, and I'm going to hit remove from recharter. Are you sure? Do you really want to remove? I'm going to hit remove. And now it's going to refresh. And you're going to see Douglas Mitchell no longer shows on my list for the pack roster. But he does, if I click on this remove members, here's Douglas Mitchell. In years past on the prior Recharter system, if you hit remove a person, you couldn't add them back on. It was a problem. But in this system, if all of a sudden you see Douglas is here and somebody comes back and says, no, Douglas staying, his kid's going to stay with the pack now. So I would just click on this checkbox and I would hit add to Recharter. And are you sure? Yes. Add. And Doug now reappears back over on the unit's roster. And there's Doug right here again. Okay. Now, we talked about pending members and somebody taking an application and posting it online. You do have the ability to see who those might be. So I sent in an application, and that application I sent the invite over to, it's going to show in this report right here. And you'll be able to know who to approve and accept. Okay. So let's go back over to this pack roster. Okay. We're going to come over here and hit this payment log. And it takes you over to Scoutbook. Now, some of you guys track things well in Scoutbook, and some of you don't. But that's okay. I don't track everything in Scoutbook. But if you take payments for a camp out, if you take payments for a recharter, if you take and receive anything from somebody, you can make notes for that inside Scoutbook and track that. You can track when somebody went on a camp out and all their advancement, all the service hours. All of that can be tracked inside Scoutbook. So if you've made a payment log, I could have logged in on Scoutbook and I can find out who we've actually received payments from. That's how you can track it. Some of you may turn around and just put it on a piece of paper. Some of you may put it in an Excel spreadsheet. You may just go to the bank account and look to see who made a deposit and who you received a check for. Okay. There's different ways to handle it, but this payment log button helps you go to Scoutbook and see who your notes are inside Scoutbook. Okay. So pretty helpful little tool. Now, you'll see in here, if I have an adult right here, this adult right here, I need to upload a document. Youth protection, because if you remember, I was talking about Eileen Berry, and she had this YPT little red dot over here saying her YPT is not current. So I've clicked on Eileen, and I can then come in and drag and drop a copy of her YPT certificate into here. Now, as many of you may know, though, on YPT, her certificate isn't really needed. If Eileen's membership number that's in here, which is for her in this member ID column, and it's 13575329392, if her my.scouting account that she's using is the same as that membership number, then all you have to do is hit refresh roster, and that YPT will disappear on the note that she needs it. Okay. So you can add a certificate in, but my recommendation is that you just keep hitting refresh. And if it doesn't disappear on hitting refresh, then what you want to do is reach out to Justin at registrar at montanabsa.org, or you can reach out to myself, pat.dannenberg at scouting.org. Reach out to one of us, reach out to your district executive, and we can help you work with that individual, because it might mean that they have more than one membership ID and that we need to merge their accounts so that all of their training records show up in one spot. Okay, a couple other cool things that you can do is you can hit this upload document for, let's say I hit manage members, I hit add new member, and we hit this paper application. And then with it, I type in the name. And I'm actually gonna pull up and show you guys this real quick. We're gonna hit, oh, let's say Judy or Fort. And Judy is an adult. Oh, I clicked on the wrong one. She's an adult. And she's a committee member in this pack. And for Judy, I'm gonna give her that. And then she's got an ID number. And so I'm gonna actually take her ID number and just drop it in. And for Judy, her birthday is, make it types in this way. 1, 11, 2, 6. We're gonna type her in. Now, if you received a paper application, you would go and scan it on your computer, and it needs to come out as a clear scan, okay? So you can take a picture of it with your camera on your phone. Just make sure it's a clear picture and that everything on it is legible, okay? If it's not legible, then it can't be accepted, right? And it'll go as a defective unit post. So, and then I would just hit add paper application, and it's going to pop up where I have my file window box, and I can go and add it that way. So, and then I hit add member. Oh, required field. I still have to add that paper application. So I can't post without a scan picture. So here we go. We're going to hit add. And for this point, we're going to just add the Boy Scout logo. And now we're going to hit add member. And because of this, the member ID doesn't match. And so we can't finish posting. But let's go through. But that's because this is a demo trial. So I could then add a paper application for a person. And so it's helpful to know you can add it as a youth or an adult and just go through and post it. Okay. If you don't have the ID number for a person, no sweat. But you are going to have to, if you have that paper application and you don't have the ID that you're posting in there, then you're going to need the YPT certificate from that person to be able to put in there. But oh, by the way, that YPT certificate's also going to have somebody's adult ID number. So membership ID number.
Pat, if I can jump in real quick, sorry.
Yeah, go for it, Jess.
So one quick note about the paper applications, uploading them through here versus just doing them separately through a an online application process like we've been doing, is that when you do that, and it's fine if you want to do that, however, those don't come to me and those don't get processed until after you've done the validation, the charter, and the payment. So it's going to take a long time, theoretically, before I ever see it to know if there's any issues. So you're better off, it when possible, just doing an online application and not worrying about adding them here, just to save everybody time and potential hassle. You're welcome to do it if that's how you choose to do it. Just know that there could be a delay catching issues if something's up with that.
Yeah, Justin, you're absolutely right. And Justin, I think the better way to do it is if you do have a paper application, just go ahead and scan it and send it to you, right?
That too, yeah.
That's probably the easiest way to do it. And then even if it's an application being scanned to you or somebody's done that online application, you just keep hitting that refresh right here. And that refresh will continue, and you just hit it every few times, and you'll see the application pop in for that person. So, all right. So here's a couple of things just to note. If for whatever reason your chartering organization is not correct on here, and you don't see some information on this top half correct, you will need to get with your district executive and work on changing that. And so just make sure you contact out to them and they can help you change that. It's probably going to mean that you have a different chartering organization and we'll have to do a different, a new unit application to change it, but that's okay. We can do that. So if you've changed over the course of the year and something didn't get corrected or something like that properly, then we can also make note of that. And if something is just simple and needs to be changed, feel free to reach out to Justin at that registrar at montanabsa.org. So, all right. So I can take this and I hit this show roster. And just so you know, one last thing on this roster area, you have the ability to, this is showing me everybody on the Recharter right now. I can highlight with the, or uncheck the with YPTs. And I like this particular bubble box right here. I don't really worry about the CBC one because it forces you to do CBCs now. But you do have to have a CBC with any paper application. If you don't have that CBC, it cannot post or process. So, but hit show results, and in essence, here I am. If you recall, I fixed that YPT for that one lady and I see nobody missing a YPT. So that's just a quick save check real fast. Now, Gary, it is completely possible in here. If I come back over and I hit show filtered, I'm going to select everybody again. It's feasible in this to have everybody with the green shield in here, right? Now that green shield means that their YPT is current. It doesn't mean that it's current through next year, right? And so that's where that YPT trained report from Scoutbook or My.Scouting comes into help and play, because you need to know whose YPT expires next year. This is just telling us that they're good for right now. But our standard is that you have to have YPT all the way through 2024. And so just note that even though this says that somebody's got a green check, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily good through all of next year. So, okay. Now, down below, if I were to scroll down, not just in the on the screen here for the roster, but the next button here, it says validate, recharter, and pay. So I'm going to click on that. Now, it gives me a warning. It says, leaders do not have current YPT. Error, Recharter has the following issues. Legend, warning, you may need to proceed, warning, you may proceed to payment, but the issue will need to be resolved in the future. Fix issues now to save council time and resources. Error, you cannot proceed to payment until the issue is resolved. Okay, so it's got me with both. Leaders do not have current YPT. See more. So Miguel Mason and Eileen Berry. So, okay, continue editing. So here's that Eileen Berry right here. And we're going to hit edit because we attached her YPT. But we're going to hit this little thing over here. And you are editing Eileen Berry's information. All right. Well, it won't let me show you how to enter her date in there for her YPT, but it does allow you to.
Is it not the upload document? I thought that's what we did last year.
You can do the upload document, but
Okay.
yeah. I didn't mean to hit that button. All right, we're gonna go up. Gotta wait for it to catch up to us. And here's Eileen. We'll click on here and hit upload. And I would select her YPT and add it. So once again, do this just like that, hit open and hit save. Okay, so I've attached the YPT, but this system's not letting me come in and edit a person, which is where you would go to add that YPT date. Okay, we're going to come in, and for this sake, though, we're going to hit manage members. We're going to hit remove from Recharter. We're going to hit remove for her. Yes. And I can't remember that other guy's name. And just for sake, we're going to hit validate again because he's going to pop up on this report. Leaders without current YPT, there's Miguel Mason. We're going to hit continue editing again.
The other way to do that too, Pat, would be to just go back and hit the box for the no YPT, all the members that don't have it. And then it just, you can see it right away.
Right. And just going to manage members again and remove Miguel also. All right. So I've removed both of those. Now I'm going to hit validate. Okay, unit does not have enough required amount of leadership. Let's see what it's saying. The chartered org rep was one of those two. We're going to come back in.
Hey, Pat, you're getting an error too that says gateway timeout.
Yeah, that's part of the demo mode. One of the,
Okay.
it doesn't connect back over to Kayla. All right, so here's Miguel, and he was the chartered rep. So for our issue with Miguel, Miguel's our charter rep. Miguel is the person that's supposed to be as the liaison between this pack and South Denver 93 Temple Association. So that liaison is supposed to interact. Now, we talked about online applications earlier. Your chartered organization representative is the main person that is able to approve any adult applications online. Beyond that chartered org rep, the institutional head's able to approve. But beyond them, nobody else is able to approve an online adult application, with the exception of, unless Miguel has gone in and approved somebody else as a charter representative delegate. Now, in this recharter process, I highly recommend you consider who is going to be your charter rep. That charter rep, you can then work with the chartering organization to select somebody that is going to be willing to go in and approve adult applications online. If your charter rep currently is not willing, able, going to go in online and sign off and approve adult applications online, I would recommend one of two things. One is find somebody that is willing to go in, that can be that representative and report back to the chartering organization of how the unit's going. The other is to go in and work with the charter rep to make sure that there's a charter rep delegate selected. Okay. Those are both critical and key for your process. Now I'm going to come back over and I'm going to select pack roster. Knowing that we have an issue with our charter rep, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to look at my adults, and just for example, I'm looking for a committee member. I'm going to take Kirk Sandoval and let's see if they let me edit him. We're going to take and change his position over to chartered organization rep. Okay. And we're going to hit update information. Now Kirk is showing us the chartered org rep. Okay. If I click the validate, I should be able to see that he's now approved and good to go. But before I do that, I want to make sure that all my Scout Life magazine subscriptions are good. So let's go over a couple pages until I find some of the youth. Here's some of the youth. Most of them are turned on. Let's see if I got somebody else. Yep, here's some that don't have it. So I'm going to turn this one on right here. Oh, it was one of those. And so I could turn one off also. Scout Life has been updated. Now, I've changed my Scout Life. I'm good with my roster. In theory, I should be able to hit validate. Youth do not meet the age grade requirement for the program. So let's continue editing and let's see who it is. So we've got 3 youth here: Christopher Wilson, Rebecca Wright, and Lester Hansen. Now, I don't know if I can change the show. Let's unselect all the adults and let's take a look. Okay, so here's one right here of 06-2011. So the age is wrong right there. What that really means is this young man should be in a troop. So we're going to select him. And we're going to remove from the recharter. Now let's just quick confirm for that. And we got him removed. So let's look for Hansen. We're going to click right here on last name to make it alphabetized by last name. And then we'll just switch through. And here's that Lester Hansen. Now let's go find Wright. I'm guessing on the last page. And here's Rebecca Wright, 2011 birthday also. And let's go ahead and remove both of those. And let's double check to see if we're good on all of our validation now. All right. You cannot proceed to payment until the issue is resolved. Wait, oh, it looks like we're good. So, got no issues that are popping up. Just got the warning and error legend for us, and let's hit payment. We're waiting for this screen to pop up, but you'll see complete recharter information, and then it says payment confirmation. And so we're in this process here, and now we've got this system pull up. Now it says your information. Your information is the person that is posting the recharter. If you aren't doing the recharter, if you put the Cubmaster's name in and the Cubmaster didn't do the recharter, don't put the Cubmaster's name in. If there's an issue with the recharter, whoever's working on it, you put that name and info in, because then your district executive, your commissioner, and Justin know who to reach out to. So it's extremely helpful, okay? Now, you can see right here, this is where it talks about credit card, ACH, or pay it to council. So this is where I really highly recommend. I recommend doing ACH, because if you do the ACH payment and you pay online, and then you have somebody go through and digitally approve the recharter, this thing just goes instantly over to Justin, he can look at it real quickly if everything's correct on it and just hit post, and it will post real quick. If you hit this pay at council, just know that not only do you have to click on pay at council, you have to walk into the scout office and pay, but you also have to print out your recharter. You have to print it out. And the reason I say you have to print the whole thing out and take it in with your check or your debit card, whichever way you're going, you have to print it out because at the scout office, they don't know what you need to pay. And they are going to want to see your actual recharter has posted. They will not be able to receive a payment from you unless you take that recharter paperwork in. And the reason for that is because sometimes I have seen people go through, they think they posted, but they haven't posted it and submitted it yet and hit this pay at council. And if they haven't hit post on it, then maybe they didn't go through and they just clicked on something and there's issues and they have to go back and change those issues before they submit again. Or they go and make another change because they realize they can't. And then they paid the wrong amount. So you have to print your recharter and take it in with your payment. So that's why I say on the ACH, that is the hands down flat best way to go because it is the quickest and easiest method for you. So just make sure you know what the routing number is and what the account number is. And if you aren't sure which ones those are, all you have to do is Google search, check routing number, and hit image search for that on Google, and it'll show you the layout of a check and which numbers are which, just in case you forget. But the route number is the one to the left, and the account number is the one to the right. You can see over here on this page that it does have the renewal roster fees, and it gives you a grand total right here of how much the recharter is, and it tells you all the youth and adults and how many Scout Life magazines you've got. It'll tell you the council fee and administration fee and so forth. All of this is going to pop into here, and it's going to give you a grand total amount. Now, you'll see in this as the example that these are not popping in correctly. You'll also see that there's a council's program fee that'll pop up in this too on yours. So, all right, now I'm going to come through here and
Hey, Pat.
Yeah.
A couple of questions came up while you were
Yeah.
running through it. I want to jump in while we're still on this.
Okay.
One of them was when you had a youth that was not age appropriate for the program, what if that youth is a special needs youth that has dispensation because they're a little older but need to have that going? So that's the first question. The second question was I assume that a debit card tied to a checking account or something is actually the same as just submitting a credit card in this situation?
Correct.
Okay, because it carries the Visa or MasterCard logo on the debit card, and they will treat it that way because you don't enter a PIN or any of that kind of thing.
That's right. You get charged the credit card processing fees.
Okay,
And
so, but back
I made
to
that
the
mistake before once for my unit in the past, and it charged, when you're dealing with hundreds of kids, sometimes it'll charge you hundreds of dollars for that percentage fee. So don't do it.
And then when you get to it, last question, there is a switch. I heard that you were supposed to be able to say pay by or it's paid by the unit, not by the individuals. So
Yeah,
is there
you
something
mean, yeah, so that what they're talking about with that question, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
okay?
But that
I'll wait.
Yeah,
on
that
the
feature
third
is
one.
not turned on yet for everybody. So
Okay.
Gary asked a question. Let's answer that question on a special needs youth. And let's say they're a 19-year-old. They've been given exemption for being able to stay registered as a youth permanently. Let's use that example. Can that happen? Yes. Can you have a 35-year-old registered as a youth participant? Yes. And so there's a couple of things that I would really recommend doing for that. Once that youth is registered in that format, then the Recharter system is going to completely work fine with that. If you need to add a youth that is special needs youth, and they are first time registering, I highly recommend using the paper application and sending that directly into Justin. And the reason I recommend that is because when you go to put in a special needs youth, that youth is going to be notated in the system as special needs. Plus, if they're above the age of 18, they're going to be noted as an adult youth participant. And one of the things you'll have to worry about and pay attention is, yes, you have a special needs youth. Yes, you're going to have to work with them to do youth protection training. And yes, we know and understand that some of our youth, adult participants, are going to have a hard time in special needs circumstances understanding that. And if that's the case, then you can work with your district executive and Justin for that youth protection training. But one of the things that has to happen is when Justin registers somebody as special needs, there's going to need to be some form of a letter accompanying and documentation stating that this person is special needs and for the reasoning why they need to be noted in the computer for that. And so, as I would like to call it, a Scout individual plan is what's being attached for that youth. That's documentation both for the unit and the council stating why they're special needs, okay? Justin can put that in through paper application and note as special needs with the paper application. If you don't want to turn that in as a paper application, you can register that person as a youth and turn them in if they're a youth. But if they're an adult youth participant, you'll need to turn in the paper application. Okay. So complicated question. It's going to happen more as a case-by-case scenario. But if you have somebody just know that's going to register and be special needs, I recommend doing a paper application for that person and submitting the Scout individual plan and the doctor's letter or whatever separately. So sorry for the complicated answer on that, but it is those are a little bit more complicated and sensitive to make sure that we can still register them and also make sure that for the scouting experience, if they're going to work on the Eagle rank or something like that down the road, that we get them notated in the computer as special needs on the front end. So, okay, so I can't post in here and show you the next screen after the validate and pay screen. This system was not set up for us to demonstrate that, but it would take you to the ability and show you, hey, you're going to have the charter rep be able to approve, or somebody from the key 3 approve. They would go through and approve in their setup because they're going to get an email that states that they need to go approve. If this person right here that's logged in and doing the Recharter happens to be also one of the key 3, then it would have let you go through and approve it. So, and then once that's all approved, then it goes to a posting situation. So Gary, that's a whole lot of information tonight on this. Are there any other general questions in the chat that we still need to answer first?
I don't believe so. I think I've covered a lot of them, and Justin has. Just a note, we have posted a number of links to things that people had questions about. Terry put in a registration beyond age availability. There's a process that's listed under file store. That link is there. What's the other one? We had one about when the question about positions required for charter, that was posted at the head of the chat earlier tonight. So we've covered pretty much, I think, all of the questions that folks had. Yeah, there's the charter national one. I think we are pretty well clear, and I would open it up for brief questions, general questions, if anybody has some.
I'd like to learn more about the online payment for individuals. I was told that that was the way it was going to be going forward to simplify the life of our treasurer, and we wouldn't be having the unit pay for all the individuals. It would seem that if new individuals can pay online, that surely existing members can pay online, no?
You know, Brandon, that's a great question. So as it stands right now, if you're an existing member, then those existing members are going to have to go through the recharter process this year. So meaning if they're a new member from August on of this year, they will not have to pay or do anything in the recharter process. But if all of us were members last year and went through on our recharter last year, or somebody that went and turned in an application prior to August, they're going to show up on this recharter process, and it's going to show that individual over here in the total column with a fee due. And so that's kind of how you know. Now, in the online process, let's say somebody joins in January and comes to your unit, they're going to have the 12-month cycle, and it's not going to be prorated for them. I think one of the questions, Gary, you mentioned a second ago was in regards to, the unit choosing to pay the fees for everybody, or choosing to handle the fees for everybody, I think is the question that was being asked. So somewhere over the course of next several months, it has to turn on before February 28th, because on March 1st, every unit is going to have the ability to choose whether or not that person pays for their own renewal, or does the unit keep track of it and pay for the renewals. And so that's a really interesting question and so forth. There's some features that are coming online. If you guys noticed, I tried logging in yesterday and on Monday, and there was quite a few problems with trying to log into my.scouting, and that's because behind the scenes they're updating it with some of these features that are starting to be tested and go to work for us. So that button for your unit is coming. It'll be on the organization manager, but it is not currently there yet.
Another point on this too, Pat and Brandon, as we go forward with this unit, someone in the unit is going to have the ability to track who and who has not paid if they're paying individually, so that the unit can then reach out to that person, say, are you continuing? Are you not continuing? And then we get into that way we're not trying to register somebody and pay for somebody only to find out that they've moved or they're no longer wanting to continue in scouting. I've got another question that just came in. If a new adult is being asked to position as part of Recharter, for example, committee chair, do they need to complete all the prior training to submitting the charter, or just YPT? If only YPT, do they need to complete position training? We've had that conversation at council level. We would like to see your position level training done within the month, certainly within 60 days, as to what they're coming in. Now, clearly, some things like Scoutmaster, IOLS, and that kind of thing makes it much more difficult, because it may not be scheduled depending on when they join. But the thing is, if somebody is changing position, they will need a new application for the new position, which they'll have to put online as well. That's usually the bigger hangup. To date, there's no requirement from national at this point in time that somebody needs to be fully trained for their position before or after they take it, with the exception of youth protection training, which is a requirement. But the other, you need to submit an application anytime you change the position anywhere in scouting. So, Brandon, I'm not sure, TK, did that answer your question? Yes or no?
Hey, Gary, let's clarify something on this too. And
okay,
at the tail end of this, if we're done with Recharter questions, I'll switch over to my.scouting and show a few features in my.scouting for people. But I won't include that in the recording, and that's because the access that I have is going to show names and so forth. So don't want anybody to be offended by sensitive material.
Katrina asked a follow-up on that, by the way, that basically said, do they need to submit a paper app for position change? Could it be changed in the charter? No, they will need a new application if they change position within a unit.
Gary, that's actually not correct. And
No, it isn't. They changed that then, because it used to be that you had, every time you changed the position, you had to do a new application.
Yeah, that's a long time misnomer for a few things. And
Okay, I stand corrected. Good.
so in the recharter process, if you change a position inside the recharter process, you don't need to fill out an application for that. In addition
Okay.
to that, if somebody is a member of the key 3 of a unit, they can go in and that key 3 can change a position for a person in my .scouting on the organization manager. You can also change, now that person cannot change somebody in and out of, say, the key 3. So the charter rep can only change positions in the key 3, but the key 3 as a whole can change anyone below that. So assistant scoutmaster can go to member of committee, vice versa. Somebody in the member committee of a pack can be switched over to den leader. Those can be done in the organization manager online and no application needed. If through the current time of the year you want to change it and you don't want to do it online, then you have to fill out an application through the course of the year and submit that to the scout office to change it if you don't want to do it online yourself. So, and changing it in Scout Book doesn't change it. So
now that's just for units, Pat. If they wanted to change and say, add becoming a merit badge counselor or a member of a district committee, then they would have to submit an application for that.
that is correct. Anytime
Okay.
you, and that's a good question, Gary, because anytime, let's say you're wanting to be part of the pack even, and you're registered there, but you want to go be part of your supporting troop that's at the same chartering org, you're going to have to fill out an application to become part of that that unit. So, but once you're into the unit and you're showing on the roster in the unit, the unit can move you around whichever way they need. So
I think we made that muddy as hell. So, okay.
I particularly like the ability to go in and change stuff within a unit online, because that's
a big help.
That feature was turned on about 2 years ago and is just a great help. So Justin, did we or sorry, not Justin, but Brandon, did we answer your question on the apps and so forth?
Yeah, I think so. So it sounds like maybe in the future, individuals will be able to pay directly and we won't have this annual money shuffle. The reason I make a point about it is, you know, we had been misled by more than one individual that this was all going to happen directly through the individual. So when parents were showing up with checks and cash to pay for their fees, we said, oh, no, don't worry, you'll be getting an email and you can pay directly. Well, now we got to go back and say, oh, nope, never mind. Drag those checks out of the round file and we'll take them now. So.
Yeah, sorry about that, Brandon. There was a video training that we did back in August, July, August timeframe that was in regards to the new membership changes. And anybody that was registered prior to August is going to show up on this recharter. They will have to pay the fee. And then anything that occurs after the recharter season, so after this recharter, those individuals they'll be part of the new system where you recharter in essence as an individual through the year. So
got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And this is the last year it'll be like that. Moving forward, you're correct in that they will pay themselves. It's just that this was kind of a soft rollout for national, so only new members kind of get that bonus feature, for lack of a better term. this year. So you were partially right that everyone will get an email, but it's not actually going to be till next year's recharter.
And again, providing their emails are correct and valid. Because they may get an email that goes off into the ether. So that's the goal for this year, is to make sure every member of your unit has a valid email address that they check, and that they do not automatically shuffle Scout related emails to the bit bucket.
Yep.
You know, not that anybody would do that. The stuff we send out is really important, right?
Are there any other questions for you Recharter guys? Otherwise, I'll switch over and show you a few things on my.scouting.
Hang on, you got one right here that says, how do packs and troops handling the need for financial support or payments if their families are paying directly next year? That's probably a question for Justin.
So if let's say a couple of different things. So if you've got, let's say many of us are going to be in this boat. Let's say I go out and fundraise and do popcorn sales, and my popcorn sale money that I raise applies towards my membership fees for the year. Okay. So they go through, they sell this fall, then the pack troop, they get to hold on to that money all the way to next fall or whatever time frame that person's renewal is. If you're going to be a unit and you use your fundraising skills to help pay for your membership fee, then as a unit, you're going to want to go in and mark that box when it turns on where the unit is paying for the fees for renewal. And that button is going to keep the email from going to the individual to pay those fees. And so just know that button's not turned on. I'd show you that button in a heartbeat tonight, but it's just not quite there yet for us to see. So, and Gary and I will most likely send out another video down the road saying, here's this button, click on it. And here's the reasoning why you would or wouldn't click on it. So.
Yeah, I know a number of units that through fundraising pay for everybody's membership fees. And so they asked that question specifically. And yes, that capability is coming, not this year because the membership is tied to charter. Next year, membership is wholly separate from charter. So, and that's 2024. But let's not get ahead of the cart.
Now, Gary, one thing to show real quick to you guys, if you go to montanabsa.org/resources, or you just go to the main page and click on resources, when you scroll down on this page and you come down to the unit resources section, there is an initiate financial assistance request. And if you are going to ask for financial assistance for a scout, then this form online initiates that process and starts it. And so you do have the ability to submit individual, but just know that the individual parent is going to be completing part of the process, and then the unit's going to approve it, and then the DE and so forth is going to approve it. But if you do need financial assistance for somebody, this is there. However, just know that in using financial assistance, if you use it with Recharter, then you have to submit payment at council, because then we'll have to go through that process. So,
Pat, I got one more question. Someone is still unclear.
Go for
it. What the sequence of events are for adding a new adult who will be taking over a key position in 2024. Now, if I understand the question correctly, a new adult means they have never registered with the BSA before. That means, and they're outside of the unit. So what that means is they will need an application, criminal background check, and CDC, and youth protection. If they are a member of the unit and they're going to a new position, that can be done within the unit recharter process.
That is correct. So,
okay.
And just to clarify and show that again, Let's turn on our recharter system so it shows our adults. Let's turn off our youth, hit show results. Now I've got all of the adults. Everett Chin is registered as Cub Master, and I don't want Cub Master anymore for that person. Let's change that to Assistant Den Leader and hit update information. Now that I've hit update information though, the unit doesn't have a Cub Master, and if I were to come down, since I've changed it, and hit validate, the validate's going to pop up. Unit doesn't have one of the required leaders. It's going to show Cub Master as expected. So we would just hit continue editing. And let's say Stella is now the Cub Master. And we would just change Stella's registration over to Cub Master, hit update. And now we've just changed the positions for those leaders in the unit. So
basically this has become much simpler than in the past when you had to throw paper at everything.
That's right. So
So-
much easier.
Can I clarify something?
Go for it, Donna.
I am stepping down as the COR, or not COR, sorry, as the committee chair
Okay.
of my troop, my son's troop.
Okay.
We can then elevate the new person right within the charter. Because I'm not getting what you're saying, because you guys keep saying if you're key 3, you can't do it, but yet you can do it. So
Yeah.
can you guys just yes or no? Can Erica be elevated to committee chair and me be demoted to committee member upon
Yes.
this process?
Yes. And so that was one of the specific examples that we used earlier, was we had somebody that was missing YPT as the charter rep. I took that person out, removed them, and then I edited it and updated somebody else in here to be the new charter rep on this demo situation. And so Donna, definitely whoever's logging in and doing this can make that change. And so I guess to also further help understand who can log into this process and see over here on the right hand side where it says Recharter, that button is going to pop up for anybody that is a part of the key 3 for the unit and or key 3 delegate for the unit too. So if they're not one of those members, then this isn't going to necessarily appear for them. So I don't believe any regular committee member can just log in for this process. Might be wrong on that, but
Can I ask a
Well,
follow-up question?
Go ahead, TK.
Yeah, so if it's a new person that is not registered, has nothing to do with the troop, there, again, the great example, if the committee chair is gonna be leaving at the end of the year, I am, as part of this process, how do I get a new person registered? If they fill out an application, if they do it online, it'll show up, right? So they can be assigned as part of the recharting. What if it's a paper application?
yeah.
I mean, am I going to be able to transfer and assign or have somebody assign this new committee chair
Sure. So there's
as part of the roster?
So there's 2 different ways this can work for you. One is you could turn in the paper application and Justin gets the paper application and it goes in and posts. Let's say on the paper application, you turned it in as a member of committee and Justin posts it as a member of committee and you hit refresh, that person will show up as a member of committee. But now you've decided not to be committee chair and that person is going to be committee chair. You just do the edit for that person and change their position. So,
Okay.
so
those,
you have a
those
couple of
papers will
different ways.
be processed in time for me in mid-November to make that change.
Absolutely. Justin's really
Okay.
phenomenal on it. And the reality is over the last 2 months, we've had like 20 paper applications come in. So that's helped us be able to free Justin up to go and do other things from camp to OA and so forth. So,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, you're
Pat,
welcome.
we're coming up on 90 minutes for this session. I know it's good questions and stuff, but in the interest of not clobbering the remainder of people online.
Yeah, anybody that wants to take off is completely fine. Granted, if anybody's got questions, we'll stay here all night to answer questions, so. Any other
I don't have
questions?
anything, I don't have anything else coming in online.
Okay. Well, I just want to let everybody know, I'm gonna switch over and show a few more things, but for our recharter part tonight, very grateful that everybody took the time to show up tonight. Hope you have a great scouting night and go make a difference with these kids. They appreciate it and we appreciate you helping them. So.